changes to the functions of the Auditor Generals to make their office more effective in fighting graft. Mr. Smith, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Now, early in the week, the Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, basically released the audit outcomes for many municipalities, and it's not a pretty picture. Perhaps one should start by asking what could be behind these threats.
Well, I'm not sure what is behind the threats. What I do know is that anybody that threatens the Auditor General or his staff is in conflict with the law, and that those that do so, if it is indeed true, must be encouraged to stop doing that, and that we must condemn that type of action in the strongest possible terms.
Okay. So earlier in the week, the media was lambasted for not reporting on this threat. How do you think we can work integratedly in order to be able to curb these type of threats?
Well, I think the first thing is to be able to make it public, so that everybody knows that as South Africans we detest this type of behavior. It's not the responsibility of Parliament or of the media. All of us have the responsibility of protecting Chapter 9 institutions that have been set up to protect our democracy. So it's in everybody's interest. And I made a call to the media on Wednesday that you should be as vociferous in condemning this type of action as you are when you condemn threats to media freedom. And I'm glad that the media has come to the party.
So did you know about these threats when you lambasted the media, or have you found out about it at a later stage?
Well, the threats in KZN specifically, I did not know about them, but I am aware of similar threats that have happened in different provinces previously. So it's not new to me that this has happened. Auditor General has raised it with the committee on numerous occasions, but the KZN one, I picked it up on Friday.
And as you mentioned, the Chapter 9 institutions are quite important for our democracy as a country. Now, it would seem that these Chapter 9 institutions are targeted. Apparently, some state entities, including government departments, have threatened the office with legal actions for reporting adverse opinions on them. What do you have to say about that?
Well, look, I don't think that the Auditor General is an angel. So if people do feel that what the Auditor General has done needs to go on review, we should welcome that. But what we must not encourage is for state organs or individuals to want to muzzle the Auditor General because they don't like the Auditor General's opinion. We also must encourage the Auditor General to be able to express his opinion without fear or favor, regardless of who is auditing and what station in life that individual has. So the AG must be given the independence that he desires, but indeed if the AG has crossed the line, he should then also be open to people questioning his opinion. But I don't think it should be a situation where there's a no-go area for the Auditor General.
So everyone should be held accountable for basically what they do say? Okay, now we had similar threats to in the past aimed at the former public protector Thuli Madonsela. What I basically want to know is there a manner in which we can curb this type of behavior without stifling what people would say is called media freedom?
Well, I don't think that we should curb people from questioning or even challenging the findings of the Chapter 9 institutions. That should be allowed in a healthy democracy. I think what we must curb or what we must stop is the intimidation that is forwarded or focused on these institutions purely to cover up corruption, purely to cover up financial mismanagement or any other criminal matter. That must be curbed, that must be discouraged, and all of us must make sure that it doesn't find place or space in our democracy.
Okay, and you mentioned that it has to be curbed. Do you have any strategies? How are you going to curb it at this stage? Are you working on anything?
Well, I think the state organs or agencies that are responsible for this type of thing should do what they need to do. I can tell you that at the Committee of Public Accounts, we have asked the Hawks to be present in all our meetings So if we are aware that there's a case that has been raised with the Hawks, we will then have the opportunity of asking the Hawks for progress on that type of matter. So I think that we must keep the focus on. We must send out a strong message to everybody that they can't get away with it, and we must appeal to the state organs to do what they need to do to curb this type of behavior.
And that speaks to the executive mayor of EtheKwini, Zandile Gumede. Yesterday, when these allegations surfaced, she promised to leave no stone unturned to get to the bottom of this brazen undermining of the office of the AG. What do you have to say about that?
We can only welcome the executive mayor's stance on this matter. I do know that the Minister of Local Governments, William Kieser, has a similar stance. So all of us have a responsibility to make sure that Chapter 9 institutions are safeguarded. We need to make sure that those that are found to be on the wrong side of the law, whether it is financial or otherwise, must be brought to book. So I think the mayor is assisting us, and we must welcome her approach of ensuring that she gets to the bottom of it, if indeed it is true.
All right. And finally, are there any law enforcement agencies already investigating these threats? How far are you guys with investigation? What is happening?
I am aware that the Auditor General has laid charges with the South African Police Services, and he's given me the case numbers. So we will follow up with the relevant law enforcement agencies in terms of how far they are, bearing in mind that this was only brought to our attention on Friday evening. So certainly next week we will do a follow-up and make sure or encourage the law enforcement agencies to do a thorough job, to do a speedy job, and for us to nip it in the bud.
All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
And now we take a short break. We'll be back shortly.